Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Nguyen. In this lecture, I will be talking about the essay structure and what it means to compose an academic essay. Okay, so this is the second lecture videos that you are required to view this week, or rather this semester. The first one being the course introduction, which I hope you've already looked at before this one. If you viewed my course introduction video, you'll remember that I asked all of you to download and perhaps print, or at least download and keep somewhere handy the module calendar for this course, so that you'll be aware of what we're doing week by week. And I also ask that you be aware of what we're doing not only in the current week but also in the following week. So you should always be aware of, class activities or course activities of 2 weeks at a time. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay. Alright, so a look at the module calendar should tell you that there are 4 items designated for this week. The participation assignment, which you've already done, the course introduction video, which I hope you've already looked at. You should also be looking at the essay structure and the writing and read chapters 2 to 6 in your textbook about the writing process. I understand that this being the first week, many of you perhaps have not been able to purchase a textbook for whatever reason, but and some of you have reached out to me and informed me that you have ordered the textbook, but it will not arrive until later on in the month, and that is fine. Just make sure that you keep me posted about your textbook situation if it's not going to be a good one. Okay. Alright, so let's look at the screen here. I have our course, our Blackboard course opened. I am in course content. We are in module 1. So I'm going to click on module 1. You know what? Again, let me just switch to student preview mode. So it's pretty much the same thing. Alright, so we'll click on essay development. Okay, so essay development, this module contains quite a few items, right? Let's see. Well, I'm not going to count it, but in my course introduction, I've made you all aware that the first 4 or 5 items in every module are provide pretty much the same type of information, and that you are responsible for knowing, say, what the module objectives are for each module, and you are responsible for knowing what the general guidelines are for course compositions. And I made you aware of the 20% rule, as well as the no first person or second person pronoun rules. Okay, and the third item, which is the college level composition criteria, lets you know how I will be evaluating your essays, what kind of things I will be looking for. The fourth item is a link to my online lectures in my YouTube channel, and the fifth item lists the textbooks that you are to read for each module. Okay, and in this module, and the module specific items continue after the module reading assignments, the module 1 reading assignments. Okay, so this week I would like for you to review the structure of the essay, right? So if you click on here, you'll see that I've made an outline of how the structure is constituted. It has 3 essential components of introduction, body, and conclusion, and you need to be aware of how each one of these components functions, or what the functions are in the overall structure of the essay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've also just uploaded the essay structure PowerPoint, right, that I am going to be using or open and use as my guide for this lecture. Okay, before we begin discussing writing in general, in preparation for the first essay assignment in this class, we need to talk in general about what it means to write an essay in college, and we need to also discuss the different discuss the principles of academic writing and the different and the guidelines that you should be aware of when you are composing a piece of academic writing. Let me start from the beginning. Okay, I skipped that first slide, and I'm going straight to the second line. Okay, so to write to write in the academic world means to write with a purpose. Okay, and to write with a purpose essentially means when you undertake a writing endeavor in the academic world, say in your class, you are writing with a very specific purpose in mind. You have a specific purpose that you want to achieve, and most oftentimes you also have, or you should have, a specific audience in mind to whom you're writing for. Okay, so all of this, thinking about the context for your writing, whether or not it's formal or informal, and if it's academic writing, it should be formal. Okay, and why are you writing, right? And that has to do with purpose, and for whom are you writing, your audience. Okay, because it's very important that we know that you're able to identify your purpose for writing, the context of your writing, the purpose for your writing, and the audience of your work in order to make effective writerly decisions. And the last item on this page, on this slide, is called rhetorical strategies, and these are strategies that you use in your writing to achieve your purpose eventually, and to appeal effectively to your audience, whoever they may be. Alright, so writing is a discipline. Right? Writing calls for a sense of discipline that perhaps many of you are not used to, and it does ask that you go outside of your comfort zone in terms of how you use language. Okay, in that academic writing should force you, or when you undertake an academic writing assignment, right, you should know that you have to use your formal voice, and you should know that you need to push yourself and challenge yourself, all right? And that there is a process that you need to go to in order to perform well in your writing assignment. Right, so it's very important that before you start to write, right, before you write, in your pre-writing process, as you think about or brainstorm or think about what you're going to write about, which is your topic, right? Once you have your topic, you also need to think about your purpose, right? Why are you writing? And a lot of times, a lot of us can identify our purpose as one of the following: to inform, to persuade, to argue, to explore, to entertain, to so forth and so on. Okay, you need to know why you are writing. Okay, academic writing in a nutshell is really writing with purpose. Okay, so it's very disciplined, and you also have to ask yourself before you actually write. You also have to be able to identify your audience. For whom are you writing? How is this important, you might ask? Well, it is very, very important because it's related, or it does affect, knowing who your audience is does affect how, or in what ways, it does affect how you're going to achieve your purpose for writing. Okay, by knowing who it is that you're trying to write for, who it is that you're trying to appeal. Okay, because when we are writing to different types of audience, right, our audience in a way dictate how we're going to appeal to them, the kind of rhetorical strategies that you use, and how we use language to appeal to our audience. So if your audience is very critical, right? Of course, they're going to be the most challenging audience to write for, especially if your audience is critical and is very, for example, informed or knowledgeable about your topic, right? Their level of information and level of knowledge forces you um, forces you to approach the topic at their level and to exceed that. Okay, and also knowing, your audience's dislikes or likes or dislikes or belief or attitude towards your topic can also help you to determine how you can approach them, or how you can appeal to them for the purpose of persuading them towards whatever purpose that you may have individually, or just in general for your writing. Okay, so what does it mean to write in the academic world? Writing in the academic world almost always means writing in a formal context for a very critical audience, which I've already said. Perhaps it is a game, but it's a game taken seriously by very serious players. Alright, and who are these players, you may ask? These players are yourself, okay, students, and myself, instructors, professors. To prove your academic worth, okay, in each class, your writing must reflect appropriate form and voice. If you do not show your understanding of the rules of the game by following them, then you will fail the game, right? If you're writing an essay that is worth, say the cause and effect essay, is worth 10% of your final grade. Now, how do you get as high of a grade as you can for that assignment? Well, you follow the rules for that assignment. Okay, you reflect the appropriate form and voice. You follow the basic principles of academic writing, of college writing, right? And you structured it in an appropriate way that is appropriate for an academic essay, which I will discuss in this lecture later on. Now, the most common form of writing in the academia is the essay. So academic writing, even though it's taken very seriously, right, and the audience and the members of the academic community tend to be very critical because we are encouraged to be critical. We are trained to be critical, right? But that doesn't mean that all of that should create a stressful environment for you. Okay, uh, all of that, what all of that adds up to is to encourage you to be critical, to encourage you to be disciplined and to bring forth your best, really. Okay, and another purpose of academic writing is also to share information. Okay, we come to college or we go to college to learn, but but we learn for the purpose of discovering and contributing to the body of knowledge in our chosen field, right? And knowledge is nothing, right? Or knowledge is worthless if it cannot be shared and applied in the real world for the purpose of making life and humanity better, the purpose of making the world a better place. Okay, so academic writing, while it is very strict and disciplined, and it has certain criteria and characteristics and form that you have to follow, you have to adhere to, right? But really, the bottom line or the purpose of academic writing is to communicate. Writing is communication, but the purpose is to share information, to share ideas so that we can grow as intellectuals, and the body of knowledge that we're able to come up with, okay, keeps growing and growing and growing so that we can become, a better informed civilization or society, if you will. Okay, so it is important and it's serious and it's critical, but it does have a very, very important mission or very, very important purpose. Alright, so when you're writing an academic essay, one of the rules or guidelines that you have to follow is the structure. And the academic essay does have a specific structure that you as student, in order to prove your academic worth, you must show that you're writing you must show in your writing that you understand how to demonstrate this structure and how to use this structure for your own, or how to organize your structure, your essay according to the academics, the structure of an academic essay. Okay, so what does this structure looks like? Now, there is really no limit on how long an academic essay must be. I've written essays that are 40 pages long at least, and I've also written essays for my lower English classes when I was an undergraduate that are just 2 or 3 pages long. So there's really no limit. It just depends on the level of the course that you are in. Now, for the purpose of this course, we will write a 5-paragraph essay. Okay, so I've set the parameters, and it's going to be 5 paragraphs. Okay, so your cause and effect essay, your persuasive essay, and your literary analysis essay all will be 5 paragraphs long. Okay. Alright, so just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about, the 3 essential components that make up an academic essay. They are in the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And each of these 3 components has a very, very specific function that together it sustains and makes possible the essay itself. The introduction has some imperatives that it must meet. Okay, it should capture the reader's interest in the beginning. It should express what the focus of the essay is. It should provide background and context information. And it should, and this is very important, provide a thesis statement at the end of the introduction. The body, and I'm going to talk about each of these components in more specific details, but right now we're just overviewing. The second component of the essay, essential component of the essay, is the body, and the body's function is to support and develop the thesis of the essay. And then finally, you have your conclusion, which should reiterate the thesis of the essay, and the conclusion is also the final opportunity for you to leave your reader with any kind of final thoughtful, insightful comments or comments, yes, about your topic. You can also think of it as, your last opportunity to persuade your reader, right? Because writing is a persuasion. So no matter what your purpose is, to entertain, to inform, to make aware, to explore, to argue, right? The underlying purpose is always persuasion, to persuade your readers, either to see things your way, right, or to believe in certain things according to your belief, so forth. All right, so let's first talk about the component of the introduction component, okay, in more details. All right, so the introduction in a 5-paragraph essay is the first paragraph of the essay. And it is very important how you open that first paragraph, okay? Because the opening of your introduction is really going to be the first time your reader is exposed to your writing and to your essay. So it could determine, after reading the first sentence, your reader could decide whether or not they want to continue reading or to abandon your writing, right? And the latter is what you don't want, right? You want for everyone to read through your essay every time. You don't want to lose your reader's interest at any point during your essay. So writing is really it's really a constant state of maintaining or sustaining your reader's interest. Okay, you always have to kind of be aware of that, and always and always make sure that you don't lose your reader's interest at any point. Okay. So how you open your essay or how you open the introduction can determine whether or not your reader is going to is going to read on. So you need you need to open it in a way that is going to captivate them, that is going to capture their interest. And there are some strategies that you can certainly be aware of and hopefully use at different points in your academic career, especially when you have an essay assignment. You can begin your essay in the introduction with an interesting question about that is somewhat related to the focus of your essay. Now, you don't want to begin your essay by stating, the main idea or the main focus of your essay, but you could ask an interesting question that is meant to set your reader on a path of to set your reader towards thinking about a topic in a certain direction. Okay, you can provide a little known or surprising fact or statistic, that is somewhat about your topic. You can tell a very brief story called anecdote that succinctly illustrates a specific point, and that specific point is, like I say, marginally related to your topic. Or you can give an interesting quotation that is going to make your um, that is going to invite your reader to think about your topic in some sense. Or you can or you can provide a declarative statement that expresses a unique position regarding the topic, or or that makes an interesting comparison of the topic to something else. All right, so after your captivating opener, right, using one of those strategies that we just talked about, you want to gradually move towards the focus of your essay. Okay, now the focus of your essay is not necessarily the topic itself, because a topic can be too broad. And remember, for a 5-paragraph essay, you need to narrow your focus. You need to have a focus that is as narrowed as possible to allow for, a detailed discussion of it, a detailed and interesting discussion of it. Okay, so you can develop your introduction, or your introduction can have the broad to narrow approach, where you start out by, broadly, by having, some broad connection to the focus of your essay, and gradually, with each sentence, you bring your reader closer and closer to the focus of your essay, and eventually the main idea of the essay. Okay, so after the opening, I should know, it should be clear to your reader what your topic is, and then I'll provide context or background information about your topic, because do not make the assumption that everyone is familiar with the particulars of your topic. So you need to provide, that kind of background or context, so that it can be understood in a certain way. Okay, then after that, I said that the last thing that your introduction should contain, and this is very, very important, is the thesis statement. It is the one sentence that tells your reader what this entire essay is about. Okay, and the thesis statement can be constructed using this structure. Okay, the thesis statement should have two parts. It should express what the topic is, and it should express the author's opinion or idea about the topic. Okay, so the topic is, of course, objective, but your opinion about it is subjective, right? And again, the thesis statement should appear at the end of the introduction. All right, so let's talk about how important the thesis statement is. right? And how you have to have one in your introduction. A thesis statement is a very important element of any academic writing. If an academic writing does not provide a thesis statement, it has made a grave academic transgression. Okay, I've read somewhere that describes the thesis statement as the heart of the essay. Okay, so the urgency and the sense of importance that is implied about the thesis statement in this metaphor, right, is one that is essential um, to the essay's function. Without a thesis statement, the essay does not have, well, a heart. If the thesis statement is the heart of the essay. In your writing, you must provide a thesis statement at the end of the introductory paragraph. You must. If you do not have a thesis statement, right, expressing what this entire essay is about, then major points will be deducted from your essay. Alright, so let's talk about how to construct or to compose a thesis statement. Okay, so a thesis statement has, well, really three parts. It tells you what the topic is. It has a topic is made up of a topic, a verb phrase, and the opinion or idea about the topic. So I have some examples here, and the different parts of the thesis statement are color coded. Okay, so the first example is standardized testing can produce adverse effects on student learning. This is a thesis statement. It has the topic, which is standardized testing. It has the verb, a verb phrase, which is can produce, and it has an opinion about the topic. The opinion about standardized testing is that it produces what? Negative or adverse effects on student learning. Okay. So an essay could certainly be written about this, in which this position can be argued. The second example of a thesis statement is eating out too often can eventually impress upon children abnormal ideas about food preparation and create spoiled eating habits. Alright, the topic of this thesis statement is eating out too often. The verb is can impress and create, and the opinion is that it can create abnormal ideas about food preparation and create spoiled eating habits. Okay, living in a subdivision, third example, living in a subdivision regulated by the homeowners association is often worth the trouble and the cost. Okay, in this thesis statement, the topic is living in a subdivision regulated by the homeowners association. And the verb is, and the opinion about living in a subdivision regulated by the homeowners association is that it is worth the trouble and the cost. Alright, so I hope that these examples are able to illustrate to you how to compose a thesis statement. Okay, if you're one of those people who's very technical and you have to have specific instructions, then please follow this format for the thesis statement. All right. Please do not begin a thesis statement with phrases like I believe, I think, I feel, or in my opinion, in my belief, or in my experience, because it is implied and understood that these are all your beliefs or opinions or arguments, right? Because it's your essay, so you do not need to declare it. There are two types of thesis statement that you can certainly construct. One type is called a thesis statement with major points of discussion. Okay, so an example, so a thesis statement with three major points of discussion, right, usually gives you three specific opinions about the topic or three specific ideas about the topic. For example, standardized testing shrinks possibilities for instructional creativity, encourages rote learning, and effaces student individuality. All right. So this thesis statement, right, um, has a position or has a certain point of view about standardized testing. It seems to believe that that standardized testing is not good for teacher creativity, and that it forces student to just it forces student to learn information in a rote way, and it doesn't allow for student uh, individuality. Okay, so these are the three major points of discussions here, highlighted in purple and green. So how this type of thesis statement helpful is that in a way it provides a kind of essay map for the rest of the essay. By listing the three major points of discussion, it tells you what the body will discuss. So each of the body paragraphs, and there are three body paragraphs in a 5-paragraph essay structure, each of the body paragraphs, right, will support and develop the main idea of the essay. Now, the first body, um, in a in an essay with a thesis statement like this, right, you can expect for the first body paragraph to support or to talk about and support the idea of how standardized testing strengthens possibilities for instructional creativity. The second body paragraph is going to talk about how standardized testing encourages rote learning, and it's going to argue and support this. And the third body paragraph will talk about how standardized testing can efface student individuality. It's going to argue for this position, and it's going to provide supporting details. Um, so, supporting details to persuade the reader that standardized testing does have this effect in that it effaces student individuality. Okay, so that's the number one advantage of composing a thesis statement with three major points of discussion, in that it kind of gives you an outline for what your body paragraph should be, right? Um, or at least it very much clearly it clearly gives you an idea of what the topic sense for each of the body paragraphs should be. And of course, there is a thesis statement, and of course, you can compose a thesis statement that does not list the three main points of discussion, the three major points of discussion. Okay, for example, going on road trips to different parts of the country during one's childhood can present many advantageous opportunities for personal development. Okay, the topic of this thesis statement is going on road trips to different parts of the country during one's childhood. The verb phrases can present, and the opinion is that it is advantageous and it is good for personal growth or for personal development. Okay, now it doesn't tell you what these three major in what three major ways, right? Road tripping during road tripping can be advantageous for a child. But if you were to ask yourself this, if you were to rewrite this thesis statement with the three major points of discussion listed, how would it look, or how would you put in the three major points of discussion? Okay, so do that for yourself. Now, I don't have a preference. Okay, so choosing which type of thesis statement to compose is completely up to you, right? Choosing one and not the other would not affect your grade. What affects your grade is the actual thesis statement itself. Okay, so I don't have a preference. You just have to decide which one works best for you. Okay, so again, this is another one of those writerly decisions that you will have to make. Alright, so before we conclude our discussion on the introduction of the paragraph, let's read together a simple introductory paragraph so that we'll see what some of the things that we've talked about regarding the introduction look like in practice. Okay, healthy living is a much discussed popular topic in the US. Pick up any magazine filling a checkout aisle in a store and one is likely to find at least one article on the subject of health maintenance. Sometimes the literature on healthy living can be repetitive, telling consumers more or less the same kinds of information. As a result of this subject saturation, it is safe to assert that the public is generally informed about lifestyle choices that may impact their overall health. Impactful lifestyle choices such as being active and eating healthy usually come to mind. One habit many people may not be aware of or is not much discussed, but nonetheless contribute just as much to one's health is personal hygiene. Practicing good personal hygiene can significantly improve one's health. Alright, so this introductory paragraph has an opener that is a declarative statement, which is one of the opening strategies that we talked about. Okay, it's just a simple statement that tells you how healthy living is much discussed and it is a popular topic in the U.S. And then it gives you some background information about how it is much discussed and it is popular because there are many magazine articles devoted to this, written about this topic, all right, and there are many people coming and there are many people who market themselves as, lifestyle or healthy living experts and so forth, telling consumers to do this, to do that, and there are always different trends that emerge, right? That tells you specifically how to live healthily, I guess. Okay, so all of this right here, from here to here, are kind of background information and context that gradually lead us to a statement about the specific narrowed focus of the essay, and the focus of the essay is personal hygiene as it relates to healthy living. And then the introductory paragraph concludes with a thesis statement, and the thesis statement is practicing good personal hygiene can significantly improve one's health. The topic is practicing good personal hygiene. The verb phrase is can improve, and the opinion is that it can improve. That personal hygiene or practicing personal hygiene can improve one's overall health. Okay. Now, what type of thesis statement is this? Of course, it is one without the major points of discussion, right? And that's just one way of writing about personal hygiene. Okay, another way of introducing the topic and having and expressing the thesis statement is this. Even though thousands of articles on the subject of health are published every year in the U.S., why does the country continue to see an alarming rise in health problems? Is the general information on maintaining one's health or healthy living missing a crucial yet practical link? The public is repeatedly advised to be active and eat healthy to start improving their health. While these are beneficial suggestions, are they enough? Or is there something else people can do in addition to these? If what we put in our body and the physical tasks we subject our body to in order to strengthen it matter in our long-term health, then it would be logical to argue that how we take care of our body is just as important. Some health professionals believe that personal hygiene can also play a significant role in a person's overall health. So this essay has the same thesis, but it just approaches the introduction of that thesis in a different way, right? It uses question to frame its topic and focus. Okay, and it uses a series of questions that are purported to lead readers to the more specific focus of the paragraph. So as you reread this paragraph, this introductory paragraph, you'll see that each question, right, brings you closer and closer to the focus of the essay, which is personal hygiene. Okay. Now let's talk about the body. The body component of the academic essay structure is made up of multiple, or it says essays here, but it should be it's made up of multiple paragraphs. I'm sorry, the word essays should be, and I'll go back and I'll change it, but the word essays should be replaced with paragraphs. So in a 5-paragraph essay, with the first paragraph being the introduction, the next three paragraphs are the body. Okay, and as we've said, the essay's body's main function is to support and develop the essay's thesis or main idea. Each body paragraph supports and develops one aspect of the thesis. Think of the essay's thesis statement in the introduction as a snapshot that gives the outlines of a picture. The details are not yet visible, right? So if you think back to I guess a simpler time when where 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 film development actual film development is more common than they are today, right? Before the age of digital uh, picture taking, I guess, right? It used to be that, you buy a camera and then you buy a canister or canisters of films, and you take pictures, you use them all, then you bring them to a film developing place and you drop them off, and you come back at a later time to pick up the films. And in between, and the time between you're dropping off your films for developing and the time you pick them up is the film development process. Okay, where the film developer is probably in a dark room somewhere. I'm not sure actually how pictures were developed back then, but I've seen movies, and in movies, right? In movies, the film developer is often seen developing films all by him or herself in a darkened room, right? With with the films, with the initial stage, I guess, of the films being immersed in water and then hung up for for them to dry and for the details to really come out and so forth. I don't know. Okay, I don't know anything about film development, about that process. So what I've been saying may be completely false. Okay, but the point is, you can think of the introduction or the thesis statement as just as those films, as those strips of films before they're developed, right? If you bring them really close to your eyes, right, then you can kind of make out the outlines of the picture, right? Excuse me, but you don't yet see the details, right? Only when the film strips are undergo the development process, only then, only after that process can you see the actual details, such as, um, such as the mountains in the background and the colors of the dresses that the people wear in the pictures, and the colors of the leaves on the trees and so forth, whatever is in the pictures, the details of them should be visible after they are developed, right? So that's a metaphor that you can certainly use to describe the ideal development stage, right? Just like that process in the body is where you develop the idea. So having read, so the thesis statement, is like the film strips. You can't see the details, but you can see the outline, right? But the details are developed in the body. Okay, the body is where the details of the picture come alive, and you can see, all of the little things that are within the picture frame, for example. Okay. Alright, so just like the film developer has his film developing tools, the writer also has the tools for developing the essay's main idea. And these tools are often called evidential support. You can certainly use details to support and develop the main idea of the paragraph. You could use statistics, you can use quotations, you can use sources, examples, and descriptions. Right? And I'm sure there are other types of of evidential support that are not listed here. If you can come up with some on your own, that'd be great. As just make sure that they are logical and effective. Alright, so let's talk about how the body paragraph is structured. It begins with a topic sentence, right, that states the main idea of the paragraph. Alright, such as an example that we've used already is, an example of a topic sentence could be, standardized testing shrinks the possibilities for instructional creativity, right? So if we were to write an essay about that thesis statement that we went over earlier, right? Then one of the topic sentences of a body paragraph in that essay could be that. Then after you give the topic sentence, then of course you provide the evidence, the supporting details, and you develop what you mean by, say, by standardized testing, shrinking, or not allowing room for teachers' creativity in the classroom. Okay, you have to show your reader what that looks like, right, by giving details and examples and so forth. Okay, now next let us think about how you're going to organize your supporting details. Okay, so what kind of it is important that you choose the right kind of organizational patterns for idea development that is best for that specific idea development or for that specific idea, right? Make sure that the organizational patterns that you choose lends itself the best to all of the other options, among all of the other options out there. So there are many different types of organizational patterns. There's spatial pattern, there's chronological pattern, there's sequential patterns, topical, problem solution, cause and effect, and compare and contrast. Spatial pattern would be good for an essay where you describe an actual physical space, for example. Okay, say if you're writing a descriptive essay that describes a specific place, such as, I'm trying to think, such as a park. Okay, then you have to have a plan. Okay, you cannot start your pattern of describing the park must be logical, right? Logical in the sense that it must move from one place of the park to the next place of the park in a convenient manner, right? So you would perhaps start at the entrance and then gradually move towards the middle and the end part of the park, right? But you wouldn't start in the middle and then go to the corner, then go to the other side of the park. That makes no sense at all. So you want to move through the space of your descriptions in a logical way. Okay, so that's what spatial means. Chronological order. Okay, I guess you could start from the beginning to the end, first, second, third, or you can start from the end and work your way, backward and so forth. However you want to move through time, right? When you're using the chronological pattern, make sure that you are consistent. Okay, sequential, same idea, topical, problem solution, cause effect, compare and contrast. Then finally you come to the conclusion. The conclusion paragraph is your last chance to persuade your reader to see things your way, to understand, or perhaps even to adopt your perspective on your topic. It is also the place where you can remind your reader, or you should remind your reader, of your essay's overall main idea, and you want to leave your reader with some final thoughtful, insightful statements about your topic, because it is your last chance, like I said, to be persuasive. Okay, and finally this slide is about using transitional expressions throughout your essay. Okay, it is very important that you use transitional expressions to keep your writing connected and to make it flow and to make it fluid. Okay, you don't want to produce a piece of writing or yes, a piece of writing or an essay that is choppy, that contains choppy sentences. So what are choppy sentences, you might ask? Choppy sentences are sentences that do not seem to make any attempt to connect with the sentences that come before it. Okay, so think of what it is. But if you have to, but if you can't understand of it in that way, then think of it in another way. Let me see if I can use an example. All right, so when you're cooking, right, say you're making a stew and you have all of these vegetables that are going to go into your stew, your beef stew, for example. Okay, you have vegetables that you have to chop. Let's say you chop a carrot. What is it that we're doing when we're chopping a carrot or an onion? We are disintegrating it. We are taking a whole, right, to make them come apart and to disintegrate them or to make them become different pieces. So in effect, we are breaking the whole into smaller pieces. We are chopping them. We are disconnecting, right, the whole piece into different parts. So we are disconnecting them from one part to another. So that's essentially what chopping means, right? You are disconnecting, you are disintegrating the different parts, right? Because up to that point, before you take your knife and you put it and you slice it through the carrot or the onion, right? The carrot and the onion exist as a uniform, as a whole, right? But after you put your knife through it, you've essentially broken that whole. Okay, so that's what chopping means. You're chopping them into pieces. So if you apply that same concept and translate it to writing, choppy sentences are what? Sentences that do not connect, um, that do not try to identify as a part of something greater or bigger than itself, bigger than themselves. So transitional expression can be a word, a phrase, which is a group of words, or a clause or clauses, which is a longer group of words, or phrases or clauses are groups of words, but they are different in essential ways. Right? So some transitional words that you can use for chronological, spatial or sequential patterns are first, second, next, after, finally, behind, and so forth and so on. Transitional phrases and clauses you can also use, right? And you are encouraged to create your own. Okay, depending on what you're writing about, depending on the context in that specific place of your essay. One example of a transitional phrase is hiding behind the curtains. Michael and Oliver could be heard giggling as their grandpa pretends to look for them all over the house. When baby Laura has finally fallen asleep in her crib, her mom tiptoed out of the room. All right. So I think that in your textbook, I'm not sure on what page, it's a list of some of the more common transitional words or phrases that you can certainly refer to and consult when you write, but please do not limit yourself to just what is on that list. And when I find the specific page number, I will let you know, or you can email me to remind me if you're one of those people who would like to know who would like to see that list in your textbook, but I just don't remember it off of the top of my head. But this concludes this lecture. Please review or revisit the PowerPoint as in the next couple of weeks as we get ready to discuss your first essay assignment.